إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises are due to Allah, the Lord, the cherisher, the sustainer of the heavens and the earth. May His peace and blessings be upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his followers and his companions and those who follow his sunnah until the day of judgment. Whomsoever Allah guides, then no one can misguide him. And whoever is misguided, only Allah Azza wa Jal can guide him. And I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah is his last and his final messenger. O you who believe, fear your Lord as He should be feared, and don't die other than in a state of Islam. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي. And on that day mankind will remember. But what good will that remembrance avail him? He will say, I wish I only set forth good deeds for my life. This is talking about on the day of judgment. When mankind is looking back on his life, saying that I wish I only spent my life to do good things for this life, for the akhirah, for the hereafter. There's a famous poem that's called Everything That I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And this man, he talks about how the things that he learned in life, he didn't really learn them at the top of the graduate school mountain. But instead he learned them right there in the sandbox as a little child. And then he goes on and he talks about the simple things in life that he learned. Don't hit others. Share your things. Clean up your own mess. If you hurt someone, say you're sorry. When you go to out into the scary world, hold hands and stick together. And he talks about very simple things that we can learn. Very oftentimes when we study Islam and we hear about some of the stories of the companions and our pious predecessors and those who really inspire us or those who have moved mountains and made a huge difference in the world, we become a little bit intimidated. We become a little scared that we're not going to be able to accomplish these things that these great men and women have accomplished. You think to yourself, I'm just a simple student. I'm just a simple guy. I'm just a simple girl. You know, I live my life. I go to class. I learn some things. I have a family who I need to take care of. I have a mother who's sick. I have a job to do. And you just live your life every day. And you think, how can I accomplish all of these great things in my life? But then there are other things that we learn about, that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ teaches us about, that we question, is it really that simple? Is it really that easy to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is it really that easy to be in the pleasure of Allah and to gain paradise? When the Prophet ﷺ teaches us, he said there was a woman who was a prostitute. And she was very thirsty and she went down into a well and got water to drink. And then she saw a dog that was also thirsty with its tongue sticking out. And she said, that dog is suffering from the same thirst that I was suffering from. So she went back into the well and filled her shoe with water and fed the dog. And for that, the Prophet ﷺ said that she was given paradise. Or we know that there is a companion. When the Prophet ﷺ told us, he said, the next man to walk in the room is a person from the people of paradise. And he did this 3 days in a row, and every time he said that, the same person walked into the room. So the companions started following him and learning what it is that he does that's different than what they do. Is he staying at night later, and is he praying throughout the night? Is he fasting extra? Is he doing all of these things? And after trying to observe him for a while, they didn't see anything that was strange about him. So they asked him. They said, the Prophet Muhammad said that you were a person of paradise. What is it that you do that you would be someone of paradise? And he said that all I do is that before I go to sleep, I make sure that I don't have any ill feelings in my hearts towards my brothers. This is what this person did to achieve paradise. Musa alayhi salam, he unjustly killed a man by accident. He unjustly killed a man by accident. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Qasas, He says, and on the tongue of Musa, he says, Allahumma inni zalamtu nafsi faghfir li, faghafara lah. Inna Allah al-ghafur rahim. So Musa alayhi salam said, Oh Allah, I've wronged my own soul. So forgive me, so Allah forgave him. Verily Allah is the oft forgiving, the most merciful. And you think about how simple this is. How easy it is. The things that we've done in our lives that we regret. The things that we've done in our lives that we're ashamed of. And how easy it was for Musa alayhi salam to say, Oh Allah, I've wronged my own self, so forgive me. So Allah forgave him. Look at the response. In the same ayah, it's not even separated in two different ayahs. He said, Oh Allah, I've wronged my own self, so forgive me, so Allah forgave him. Verily Allah is the oft forgiving, the most merciful. Sometimes when we take exams, and maybe you find this is more oftentimes in high school rather than your college exams, but sometimes you'll find that a professor will give you, or a teacher will give you a couple freebies on the test. They'll make a couple questions that are very easy. They throw it out there, maybe to see who has absolutely no clue what they're talking about, and just to maybe warm you up and give people something to get started on the exam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gives us freebies. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gives us freebies. And that's what today's khutbah is about. Freebies from Allah. There's a hadith that I came across. There was a companion by the name of Tufail ibn Ubay ibn Ka'b. And he used to go to Abdullah ibn Umar every day. And they would leave and they would go down to the marketplace. And they would walk around the marketplace, and Abdullah ibn Umar would give salams to everyone. He would say Salaam alaikum and greet everyone there. He would greet the people who are selling things. He would greet the people who are buying things. He would greet the people who are walking around. He would greet the poor people that are just standing on the side. So one day, Tufail ibn Ubay ibn Ka'b says to Abdullah ibn Umar, he said, today let's not go to the marketplace. Let's stay here and talk. He says, Tufail ibn Ubay ibn Ka'b says to Abdullah ibn Umar, he says, we go to the marketplace, you don't buy anything, you don't sell anything, and you don't even ask about the prices for anything. So what's the point? He says, so why are we going to the market? Let's stay here and talk today. And Abdullah ibn Umar says to him, Ya Tufail, he says, we go to the marketplace to spread the salams. Just to go greet people. Just to go greet people. You think that this is a student of the Prophet ﷺ. You think all of the things that he's going to accomplish with his life, that he wants to spend his time going just to give the salams. Perhaps he knows something that we don't know. He wants to just go and spread the salams to the people that are around. There was a hadith that I mentioned in my last khutbah here. The Prophet ﷺ says, spread the salams, feed the hungry, keep good ties with your family, and pray while others are asleep, and you will enter into paradise in peace. Very simple things that we can do. Very easy things that we can do. The Prophet ﷺ says, whoever wants to be wealthy and live a long life, then let him keep good ties with his family. To be wealthy and to have a long life, then keep good ties with your family. Imam Ibn al-Qayyim said, you can learn something from the thief. You can learn something from the thief. That when the thief goes to steal, he takes the things that are very small and very light, but very valuable. He said, this is dhikr. This is adhkar. This is remembrance of Allah. To make dua. To say a prayer. To ask of Allah. To make dhikr. To remember Allah. These are the things that are very light and very easy, and yet the reward for them is very huge. There are many freebies that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us. There are many, but in today's khutbah, we're going to go over several of them. And some of them are going to be dua, afkar. Certain prayers that you may know and you may not know. But we'll go over them for a few reasons. Number one, if you know them, then it will encourage you to continue to say them. Number two, if you don't know them, then it will encourage you to learn them. And number three, that it will at least let you know the mercy of Allah. The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said, he who reads the last verses of Surah Al-Hashr, هو الله, and the ayat go, هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever says these verses in a day or in a night, then Allah will take responsibility for that person to enter into paradise. There was a man who made a prayer. A man made a dua. And the angels said, this dua is so vast and so huge that we don't know how to write this prayer down. So they went to Allah and they said, oh Allah, we heard someone make a dua that we don't know how to write down. And they said, the dua was, Ya Rabbi laka alhamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhika wa azimi sultanik. Oh Allah, all praises due to you, which is befitting your glorious presence and great sovereignty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the angels, write it down as it is. When He meets me, He will have His reward for that dua. When He meets me, then He will have His reward for that dua. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever reads Ayatul Kursi after prayer, after any prayer, the only thing that is in between that person and paradise is death. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever prays 12 rak'ahs of sunnah in a day, then there is a palace that is made for him in paradise. When someone enters into the marketplace, and he says the dua, he says, La ilaha illallah wahduhu la sharika lah, lahu al-mulk wa lahu al-hamd, yuhyi wa yumit, wa huwa hayyun la yamut, biyadihi al-khayr, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, then there is a palace in paradise for that person. The Prophet ﷺ left in the morning for Fajr, and his wife Juwayriyah alayhi salam, she was making dua when he left. And he came back after Dhuhr, in the afternoon. And she was sitting in the same spot, making dua from the morning. So he said to her, I said 4 words 3 times that outweighed all that you have done this entire morning. That outweighed all of the dua that you made in this entire morning. I said, Subhanallah wa bihamdi, adada khalqi, wa rida nafsi, wa zinata arshi, wa midada kalimati. He said, glory be to Allah and praise is His, as great as the number of His creatures, the extent of His satisfaction, the weight of His domain, and the ink needed to write down His countless signs. And by the way, these dua, inshallah, for the ones you don't know, inshallah, you can look them up, or we'll have the khutbahs recorded, so inshallah you can look them up and try to memorize from these dua. There was a man that the Prophet ﷺ saw in the masjid. He was in the masjid and he was sitting there and making dua and praying. After a long time, the Prophet ﷺ asked him, he said, why are you staying in the masjid praying? He said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. He says, I'm overwhelmed and I'm consumed by debt. The Prophet ﷺ said to him, then say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hammi wal-hazan, wa a'udhu bika min al-'ajzi wal-kasal, wa a'udhu bika min al-jubni wal-bukhl, wa a'udhu bika min ghalabat ad-dayni wa qahr ar-rijal. He said, then say, O Allah, I seek your protection from anxiety and sorrow, and I seek your protection from helplessness and laziness, and I seek your protection from the burden of debts and the tyranny of man. The Prophet ﷺ said, there is no Muslim who visits a sick Muslim early in the morning except that 70,000 angels will send their blessings on that person until the night. And there is no Muslim who visits a sick Muslim in the evening except that 70,000 angels will send their blessings on that person until the morning. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever seeks the forgiveness of believing men and the believing women, they make dua for all the believing men and all the believing women. So they say, Allahumma ighfir lil muslimina wal muslimat. The Prophet ﷺ said, for the one who does that, then Allah will give him a good deed for every single believing man and every single believing woman. The Prophet ﷺ said, the one who removes the trouble of a Muslim in this dunya, in this world, then Allah will remove his troubles on the Day of Judgment. Freebies from Allah, treasures from Allah, gifts from Allah that we take. Is it hard to just relieve a brother if he's stressed out? To go and talk to him, to listen to his problems, or a sister to listen to her problems? Or to help someone out who's in a bind? Imagine that for that, Allah will relieve your stress on the Day of Judgment. What is greater? This small deed that we can do in this dunya, or what we would receive in the akhirah? The Prophet ﷺ said, if you make wudu, or the Prophet ﷺ, he saw Bilal, and he said, Ya Bilal, he said, I heard your footsteps in paradise last night. What was it that you have done to achieve paradise? He said, when I make wudu, I pray 2 rakahs. I just pray 2 rakahs. And for that, the Prophet ﷺ heard his footsteps in paradise. For the one who says, Subhanallah, 100 times. So if you can't remember any of the dua, this is an easy one. For the one who says Subhanallah 100 times, 1,000 good deeds are written for him, and 1,000 bad deeds are taken away from him. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us Sayyid al-Istighfar, the master of the dua of forgiveness. He says, Allahumma anta rabbi, la ilaha illa ant, khalaqtani wa ana abduk, wa ana ala ahdika wa adika ma istata'at, a'udhu bika min sharri ma sana'at, abu'u laka bi ni'matika alayya wa abu'u bi dhanbi faghfir li fa innahu la yaghfiru dhunuba illa ant. Whoever says, O Allah, you are my Lord. None has the right to be worshipped but you. You created me and I am your slave. And I am faithful to my covenant and promise as much as I can be. I seek refuge with you from all of the evil I have done. I acknowledge before you all of the blessings you have bestowed upon me. And I confess to you my sins. So I entreat you to forgive my sins, for no one can forgive sins except for you. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفر لكم إن الله غفور رحيم.